Disney. Disney ruined Disney villains. But how? And more importantly, why? Like, they haven't had a good villain character since, when was Wreck-It Ralph? Oh my god. Over 13 years ago?
You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? You hit a guy with glasses. That's well played.
So what's the deal? Why has Disney dropped the ball so hard? Nowadays, Disney villains feel like more of an obligation than a highlight. A box to check off on a list of requirements for what people expect in their movies. Meanwhile, DreamWorks and other studios have been running laps around Disney. I mean, Jack Horner and Death in the same movie? Come on! Meanwhile, Disney is like, our new villains, how about a pissed off grandma who traumatizes her family? And then how about... And then how about an angry purple cloud?
And that'll just be our little secret. And if you tell anyone, I will come to your house and I will cut you.
So with all of this in mind, it's really clear that Disney is desperate to get back to their glory days. But it does not seem like they're actually learning from their mistakes or respecting the classic movies that got them to this point in the first place. They were once the best when it came to animated villains, but now they're a shadow of their former self. What exactly went wrong here? What changed at Disney for them to fall behind their competition so much? And what will actually get them back on the right track? Well, let's find out. What ruined Disney villains?
Hades, we gotta talk.
But before we start, a quick aside about today's awesome sponsor, MyHeritage. Folks, I've always been curious about figuring out more about my background. So when MyHeritage gave me the opportunity to dig into my own family origins, I was excited to see what it unveiled. Also, they're very affordable, at only $29 for the DNA kit, and they will make sure to protect your data. So let's jump in and see how it works. It all starts with this kit that I was sent at the start of my journey. It contains everything you'll need to uncover the secrets of your origins. It's a super quick process and only takes a few minutes. All that's required is a quick swap on both sides of your cheeks, pack it all up, and ship it on out to their return address. It gets sent out to their lab, and within a few weeks, you'll get an email with your results ready for viewing. They'll give you an ethnicity estimate, breaks down your origins by percentage across 42 supported ethnicities, 2,114 geographic regions. So I'm sure they can nail where my behind is from. So without further ado, let's dive into the origins of yours truly. It's gonna be white, isn't it?
Let's see what we got here. Stephen, ready to explore your ethnicity? Yes, I'm very curious. Let's do this thing. Okay. Audio. I wonder if it's Irish. No, it's Scottish. I am 34.3% Scottish and Welsh, 28.4% English. Ooh, oi, and a bit of scone. 16.7 Irish. There we go. Okay. So white. White. Germanic, 8.5%. All right. Entschuldigend. And then we got 12.1% more in there. I'm curious about that other 12.1%. I am white as hell, dude. I am Europe. DNA matches. Parent, second cousin. All right. So I can find myself some kid from Wales and Ireland.
So you can see that MyHeritage is more about than just finding out about where your origins are tied to, but also about uncovering things about your heritage that you didn't even know about. Also important to note that MyHeritage privacy policy states that they will never sell or license your genetic data, so your data is completely safe with them. And folks, MyHeritage is running a super great deal today by clicking the link in the description box down below or my pinned comment and using my code SABERSPARK. Not only will you get an insane price on the DNA kit, but you'll also be getting a 30-day free trial to the pro service of MyHeritage and free shipping. So don't Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to find out more about your own family's background. Get started with MyHeritage by clicking down in the description box down below and use my code SABERSPARK to get the DNA kit for $29, free shipping, and a 30-day free trial of MyHeritage's top subscription service for heritage and family research. Or hit up the QR code on screen. Thanks again to MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. And now, back to the video.
And Josh is right.
Can you believe it?
Let's kick things off from the beginning, because Disney has been in the animated villain business since like the 1930s. God, that was before World War II. This is an old studio. From the early days, the villains of Disney animated productions tended to outshine the protagonist. And that's generally what's made them so enduringly popular too, ever since the early days of Disney as a studio. Audiences love Disney villains. They are a brand unto themselves. Just ask Kingdom Hearts.
I'm Sora.
Such disgusting attire. I know what you are.
Their personality, looks, and mannerisms are informed by the actors that voice them, which makes them feel a lot more realistic and human. I mean, Dr. Facilier wouldn't be half the villain that he is if it wasn't for Keith David's incredible performance.
Fun fact about Voodoo Larry. Can't conjure a thing for myself.
First the Arbiter, and then this? Mwah! Chef's kiss. God, I'm old. The 2000s, so long ago. Now, we can still root for the heroes working towards a goal, but having a well-defined villain with a direct motivation that challenges the hero's journey to get there makes the story way more compelling to watch. Sure, Sleeping Beauty has a few fun moments, but we barely get to know her as a character. She's kind of plain. The majority of the movie is the prince and the fairies fighting against one of the most iconic Disney villains ever created, Maleficent. She's the one who really stands out in the movie. Seriously, that dragon scene alone is one of the best moments in animation history. So iconic.
Now shall you deal with me, O prince, and all the powers of hell!
Obviously, not every villain is created equally. I love like Lady Tremaine. It's just an angry, mean bitch of a stepmom. She's with her cat, you know? Hey, she's pretty evil though. But what separates an evil character from being just okay to excellent is their methods for stopping the heroes and achieving their own nefarious goals. I think this amounts to having a clear balance between motivation, personality, and how relevant they are to the overall plot of the story. With this criteria in mind, let's compare and contrast some of their heavy hitters from the Disney Renaissance to examine what makes a good villain. No, seriously, like Disney was killing it during the Renaissance, goated era. First, let's start with Ursula from The Little Mermaid. Ursula has been in the business of making bad deals for a while now, by preying upon people wanting quick fixes for their problems. She might as well be a lawyer. She manipulates Ariel into trading her voice for legs to romance Prince Eric, but Ursula goes back on her deal through a number of underhanded tactics to accomplish her real goal, becoming the Queen of Atlantica, and getting revenge against Ariel's father, King Triton. Sure, Ariel is just a pawn in Ursula's long-term plan, but the love story in The Little Mermaid is what defeats her in the end. Ariel has to find a way for Eric to fall in love with her without being able to use her voice. If only she watched Arthur and learned how to read and write. Loophole. Instead, Eric falls in love with her fun personality, enthusiasm, and curious nature. Plus, she's exceptionally pretty, which absolutely helps a lot. You know, let's be honest here, Eric. I've seen your eyes. I know what you're looking at. I heard the song. However, Ursula hates to lose and keeps intervening to stop Ariel from succeeding, even posing as a maiden to seduce and marry Eric first. But this method doesn't work either. Both Ariel and Eric have demonstrated their love by rescuing each other when they're out of their element multiple times throughout the movie. In the beginning, Ariel saves Eric from drowning during the shipwreck, and Eric returns the favor by saving Ariel from being killed by Ursula. It's a great story about how love conquers all. And if love doesn't work, well, take a fucking boat and shove it through your enemy. The end. When in doubt, impale your enemy. Following that, we have Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. He's not just an alpha male icon or the source of some seriously hilarious YouTube poops.
I promised myself Taco Bell, and right now I'm evolving up because you.
No, Gaston is interesting because he's Disney's first real attempt at subverting the fairy tale romance tropes they became famous for as a company. From the start, Gaston is already a local hero and skilled hunter. Oh, that poor goose. He's the most eligible bachelor in town. But Gaston is not interested in any of the hot single women in his area. Instead, he goes after Belle, a beautiful but modest bookworm who wants absolutely nothing to do with him. Gaston is dismissive of her interest. Books, really? Nerd. And only sees Belle as a potential trophy wife.
A rustic hunting lodge, my latest kill roasting on the fire, and my little wife massaging my feet.
Belle is not impressed by anything he has to offer, because Gaston is a total douchebag who is too self-centered to care about anyone but himself. Poor LeFou. Apparently, most of the people in town don't really even care about his actual personality. They'll support him no matter what. They don't even question it. I saw the song, they love this douchebag. As a result, Gaston is not used to being told no, or not getting what he wants. After Belle publicly rejects him, he starts treating her more like another wild animal to be captured by any means necessary. This escalates once Belle goes missing, with Maurice returning to town, claiming she's been kidnapped by a huge beast in a dark castle. But since Belle and Maurice are seen as the town oddballs, nobody believes him, and the patrons throw Maurice out in the cold. Gaston is an opportunist and conspires to have Maurice committed to an insane asylum unless Belle marries him. Gaston is not an intelligent guy, but he's calculating enough to use his own influence over the townspeople to get what he wants. It's a different approach to hunting, to be sure, but this tactic nearly works until Belle shows everyone that the beast is real. From there, Gaston rallies the crowd to storm the castle and kill the beast himself. By the way, during this fight scene, you got like folks getting like, oh, I'm getting poked by a fork, or oh no, I'm getting like, hit by a hammer. This guy dies. This guy, there's a nightstand that jumps from like the 3rd floor and kills this dude. He does not get up. He's done. He's dead. Jerry is dead. But it's not enough for Gaston to just kill him though. Nope, he corners the beast during the fight because jealousy has wounded his pride. Gaston's fragile ego is what ultimately gets him killed, as he can't stand the idea of Belle wanting to be with someone other than him.
Especially since he's a wolf bear thing. A buffalo monster. In a cape.
Lastly, we've got Scar from The Lion King, Mufasa's brother and the reluctant uncle to Simba. He's envious of his brother's control over the Pride Lands and secretly works with the hyenas to kill Mufasa and Simba during a stampede. But when his nephew survives, Scar manipulates Simba and wrongfully blames him for Mufasa's death. Simba is too naive to realize that his uncle is lying and runs away from home, out to the desert. However, under Scar's rule, the circle of life becomes the line of life. You start and then you die. The end. And the Pride Lands gradually wither away, with the lions and the hyenas starving due to overhunting and a lack of prey nearby. There's a bit of dissent throughout the ranks. Uh-oh, the hyenas are pissed off. But Scar's lust for power is his fatal flaw as a character. It's more important to him that he's in a position of power rather than being a capable leader who looks out for the well-being of the Pride Lands. Fittingly, Scar dies in a brutal way once he's overthrown by being thrown off a cliff and being eaten alive by the same hyenas he tried to blame for the famine. Scar is a great example of how absolute power corrupts absolutely. Mufasa understood the high level of responsibility that came with being king, whereas Scar only cared about having a title with bragging rights.
I am the king.
Yes, sire, you are the king.
So this is the standard Disney villains we've grown up with. Characters that were so well crafted in their own right that they became icons of animation history. But I think their legacy also indicates how much the management of Disney as a company has changed since then. And it definitely seems that it changed for the worse.
Blah, blah, blah. Every year it's the same thing. All talk and no play. What a bunch of dull villains.
So, what exactly ruined Disney villains? Where did it all go wrong? And how? Well, more than any other studio, you can usually tell how Disney is doing financially based on the quality of their productions. So whenever their animated films feel inconsistent, well, it's usually a sign there's trouble brewing from the top of the food chain that affects everything else underneath it. After the Disney Renaissance period lapsed in the early 2000s, Disney was starting to lose their hold on the animated film market. Except, of course, for their involvement with a small production company you might have heard of called Pixar. During the early 2000s, Pixar's films were substantially better received than what Disney was putting out, both critically and financially. They had been working together since the mid-1990s, but Pixar essentially saved Disney's animation studio at that point, with Finding Nemo alone bringing in more money than Disney's previous 4 animated films combined. Yes, it was that bad. And it wasn't just the trend of CGI animated movies becoming increasingly popular. Audiences were also drawn to the way Pixar stories were structured, with part of their appeal coming from including twist villains.
I mean, after all, I am your biggest fan.
That really wasn't a thing at Disney until Pixar utilized it first, with many of their villains getting additional screen time to develop their backstories. In Toy Story 2, we got our first twist villain with Stinky Pete, a mint-condition prospector toy who convinces Woody to join the Roundup gang so they can be immortalized in a Japanese toy museum. But in reality, Pete has been leaving his box and manipulating Woody from returning back home. This became a tendency with Pixar, and it paid off for them in a big way. From that success, Disney started to adopt the same practice, having more twist villains in their standard theatrical productions. But the results were kind of hit or miss. It worked in Wreck-It Ralph, but not in Big Hero 6. Frozen? Kind of. Zootopia? More or less. But people were getting tired of the same old predictable twist villains, which kind of defeats the point. Granted, not every character needs to have some kind of nuanced, fleshed-out background to make them interesting or try to justify their behavior. Some people just suck and don't care about consequences or how their behavior affects other people. Honestly, it's even more satisfying when they don't try to have it both ways. A solid, modern example of this is Tangled. Mother Gothel is not a twist villain for the audience, but within the movie, she absolutely is for her adoptive daughter, Rapunzel. Gothel abducted her as a baby to live forever, using the essence of a magical flower infused in her hair as a fountain of youth.
Why can't I go outside?
The outside world is a dangerous place, filled with horrible, selfish people.
You must stay here, where you're safe. Do you understand, Flower?
Yes, Mommy.
But Gothel's parenting, if you want to call it that, is completely abusive. She relies on scare tactics by emotionally manipulating Rapunzel into being such a nervous wreck that she never wants to leave the tower. And for about 17 years, this does seem to work. For her 18th birthday, though, Rapunzel wants to leave the tower more than anything to see the floating lights and a neighboring kingdom. But being able to leave soon but not yet never comes. Rapunzel is effectively Gothel's prisoner, and seeing no end in sight for getting out of there, she has to choose to go against Gothel's wishes to literally touch grass and experience the world for herself. We get to see firsthand how long Rapunzel had to repress her own desires to appease Gothel's temper. But the more time she spends bonding with Flynn Rider, the more Rapunzel realizes the environment she grew up in was far from a healthy one. Once Rapunzel finally realizes who she is, Gothel drops the motherly act almost immediately. She's more than willing to kill Flynn for getting in her way, or keeping Rapunzel locked up as a prisoner for her own selfish needs. Personally, I think Gothel is a much stronger villain than people give her credit for, just because of how real she feels.
As you know, tomorrow is a very big
Rapunzel,
day.
look in that mirror. You know what I see? I see a strong, confident, beautiful young lady. Oh, look, you're here too. I'm just teasing. Stop taking everything so seriously.
Especially for people who grew up with narcissistic parents. And if you have, then seeing Rapunzel being treated like this hits so much harder as an adult. Now, there have been a few exceptions in the past 15 years when it comes to Disney villains. King Candy is genuinely the best Disney villain since 2012. And Tamatoa from Moana was a nice little reprieve. But besides that, there hasn't been that much at all. The purple cloud thing from Raya? Boring. The Ralph clones from Wreck-It Ralph 2? Boring and regressive. Strange World? There is no villain. And I bet most of y'all are saying like, Strange World? Was that a Disney film? What's that? Yeah, no one remembers this movie. And what about King Magnifico from Wish? Yeah, that wet fart of a movie. Sure, he has the green evil eyes and even a villain song that's, okay. And it's obvious that he is the villain. But even then, they played it too safe to the point where the entire film felt generic. Where's the bite? Where's the personality? Why does every single part of this film feel like it was brainstormed by a bunch of soulless Disney executives in a think tank who wanted the most on-brand generic modern Disney movie ever made? And the worst part is, I had my hopes up for this movie, and also its villain. But like the majority of Disney animated films from the late 2010s and the entirety of the 2020s, I was disappointed. Now, I know I sound like a loser millennial who can't let go of his childhood. But I'm not wrong when I say that Disney has really dropped the ball when it comes to its villains. And also its movies overall. Except for Zootopia. That gets the pass. I love that movie. It's amazing. Please, God, let Zootopia 2 be good. I beg of you. Zeus, give me this, and my cringe is yours. God, I'm so cringe. I'm so sorry. Regardless, Disney has been struggling to find a sense of balance in their villains, and most of their recent films are stuck between two extremes. Making flat cardboard cutout bad guys with no depth, or misunderstood figures with good intentions but destructive methods. Some modern Disney movies don't even have traditional villains anymore, with their conflicts being based around misunderstandings or interpersonal drama. As a company now, Disney seems to be trying to have their cake and to eat it too, by having antagonists instead of villains. I think the best case of this happening in a recent movie with Disney is with Alma from Encanto. She has high expectations for the behavior of her family, as a sign of gratitude for their special gifts from the magic candle. At the same time, she's unintentionally putting too much pressure on her relatives to be perfect at all times. They have to marry the right people, be useful to the village, and if they don't have a gift that benefits everyone, they are ignored and ostracized from the family. This drives both Mirabelle and her uncle Bruno away when they feel they aren't wanted or are bringing shame onto the family.
Yeah, my gift wasn't helping the family, but I love my family,
Alma's intentions are mostly good, but it's the unspoken way things are handled within the family structure that actually drives them apart. She's not necessarily evil. It's more that she's traumatized and too stubborn to admit when she's wrong, until Mirabelle challenges her methods. But this divide actually helps them reconcile, restoring their house and bringing the entire family back together. I have no idea what a sequel for this film will look like. Apparently there's going to be one. Go figure. But you can definitely tell that Disney has a lot more millennials working at the studio now, when the real villain is generational trauma causing a rift between a family. But no shade to Encanto or Turning Red, obviously, because hey, I have boomer parents too. Trust me, I get it. Family is family, and all that implies. But yeah, a trend is a trend, and I've noticed it. Either way, this break from the tradition of making clear-cut bad guys has been dividing audiences for years now. While it might have started off as a nice change of pace at first, Disney's over-reliance on this approach became a boring and predictable formula. It's also making their latest movies less memorable. Nowadays, it feels like creatives aren't allowed to have as much fun with crafting their villain characters anymore. And when they tried to address that deficiency with having an upfront villain in Wish, it completely blew up in their faces. As good as Chris Pine's performance was as King Magnifico, the story for Wish was a complete mess, with boring songs and a generic story. It was completely forgettable, except for being bad.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. Where was I?
So that begs the question, where exactly can Disney even go from here? Disney needs to stop playing it safe and take a leap of faith in order to allow its creatives to explore new ideas. For Wish, there was almost a villain power couple with the king and queen, but they scrapped it. Why? Why would they do that? That could have been amazing. A musical duet between an evil king and queen? I love that. But instead, they played it safe. Why does this keep happening? Well, when it comes to Disney villains, I think it's important that we establish the origins of many of their villains. Namely, that they're inspired by folklore stories. Oh, who am I kidding? They're basically ripped off from the Brothers Grimm, Hans Christian Andersen, and other works that have long since been in the public domain. Well, maybe the word ripped off is a bit harsh, but heavily inspired to say the least. It's fine to adapt. It's okay to take this old stuff and reinvent it. But by doing so, they've kind of run out of villains. But considering we're up to 63 theatrical movies so far, it seems pretty clear that Disney is straight up running out of fairy tales to use as source material. At least they've already done versions of the most popular stories anyway. Kids these days aren't exactly clamoring for an animated musical of The Princess and the Pea. Disney used to rely on sequels on the home video market as a secondary source of revenue. Now, they're well over half of the upcoming releases. So they're going to have to think outside of the storybook with their own original ideas to make something special. And that has to start with Disney actually allowing their creative team to have the freedom to develop new characters from original source material. Disney needs to be more willing to be direct and challenging with their movies again. And making sure that they have memorable villains is one of the best ways to get there. It's how they manage to make the definitive versions of so many fairy tale stories. And I know that they're capable of doing it again. Contrast this branding headache with how effective the villains were in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. 70% of the characters in the movie are villains. They run the gamut from comedically evil to genuinely threatening. But there's nothing ambiguous when it comes to what motivates their pursuit of the wishing star. Puss is literally trying to cheat death itself by getting all of his 9 lives back. Kitty resents Puss leaving her at the altar and wants someone she can trust. Goldilocks wants a human family. And Big Jack Horner wants to use the star to steal all the world's magic for himself.
You're an irredeemable monster! What took you so long, idiot?
They're all operating off of selfish reasons. But the true villain of the movie doesn't learn anything by the end of the big showdown. Jack Horner is consumed by his own greed, with the other characters getting the happy ending they earned through sacrifice and by sticking together. It is the best DreamWorks movie since Megamind, and that has to count for something. Disney villains are intended to be critical of human behavior, and the negative aspects of life in general. We've all had to deal with seeing others justify their own shitty behavior, whether it's greed, exploitation, cruelty, pride, or straight-up malice. Seeing it in a fictional character can provide some much-needed perspective to our own faults. Yes, their movies are made for a family audience, but the way the stories are told makes them universal enough that anybody can get something from them. I definitely have my doubts if Disney would actually follow through on taking risk with filmmaking again. They've had to reevaluate a lot of strategies to get to that point though. No backpedaling due to politics. No retconning in live-action remakes. No softening edges because they think kids can't handle it. That's not the kind of message people need right now. Frankly, I need to see more nasty characters getting what they deserve in movies. Because there are way too many real-world monsters who constantly try to avoid dealing with actual consequences. But the integrity of their brand is already flimsy enough as it is. I just wish they'd actually cared enough to actually do something daring or challenging again. Whatever Disney thinks they're doing by pulling their punches with villains, it's definitely not working. Because those characters weren't broken to begin with. They just needed the time to develop. So Disney, I beg of you, bring back over-the-top villains. Bring back unapologetically evil bad guys. While you drop the ball on the movie front, we got some awesome Disney villains from your TV shows, like Emperor Bellows from the Owl House, Lord Hater and Dominator from Wander Over Yonder, and of course, Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. These characters are fun, especially Bill. You got your blueprint, now bring it to the big screen. And with Zootopia 2 on the horizon, you got your chance. This hooded guy, please make them badass and evil. And please don't let it be a bunch of rats and an overcoat. I just can't if that happens. That would be so lame, and no amount of wild hops can fix it. Well, maybe.
Ow! Stop pulling my ear, stop pulling my ear.
And once again, thank you to MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. By the way, folks, go hit up that sweet deal. It's in the description. It's a pinned comment. Go check it out today.
Whew. I think I had too much vodka. Keep it in the video. You want to know the secrets to recording a video? Drink.